Hello, Kiora. I'm going to take you on a little tour to Auckland Airport. MPI has installed a holo display unit there, and I have the little brother. So while I duck out and get it, you can ponder this one. So this is the small version, and I go to pass it around so you can actually see it, of what we have installed at Auckland Airport. And it tries to convey MPSI's biosecurity message, because we have a lot of international visitors coming to New Zealand, and they bring all kinds of things and biosecurity items that we don't want in the country. So just for a quick feel, how many international travelers did we have coming to New Zealand?
Sorry, I thought you were asking if there was an international traveller coming to New Zealand.
No, we have that as well, but just for the last 12 months, how many people?
1 million.
1 million?
2 million.
2 million. More. 3.7.
Wow.
Yes, it's staggering. And if you look a little bit into it, I mean, Australia is featuring heavily there, as you would expect. But then there's enormous growth, China and US, and then it drops off quite a bit. So year on year, it's getting more and more people. So you can expect 3.9. Soon we have more than 4 million. And it is quite hard to convey to everyone that New Zealand is a little bit different, that you please be careful kind of what you bring to the country. Food is not food, for example, because we are after a lot of food items, because in different cultures, different languages, you don't classify it that way. So there's interesting things around that. And MPI is always looking for ways to convey the message and to actually entice people to dispose of what's coming to the country. And we're running different campaigns. Social media, advertising, certain visitors need a visa, so they're already committed, they're in the process. They get a little booklet, please drive on the left of the road, please don't bring oranges, things like that. And so throughout the whole customer journey of tourists and international travelers coming to New Zealand, you have this consistent messaging. And at Auckland International Airport, because you can imagine a lot of these visitors arrive in Auckland by airplane, that's the last chance where we can actually engage. And the message flips from informing more to, hey guys, there's a fine, this is your last chance, please dispose, work with us here. And usually we use posters and cute dogs. And you see a little bit blurry in the background. Big banners, but it's static, it's paper, it's on the wall. You can imagine you're coming off the plane, you had quite a trip. It's just one of these things in the environment. So could we actually find something that would be a bit more engaging? And if we try that, and that's where the idea with the holographic display was born, can we actually also see, does it make a difference? So the whole concept was born out of the RTI practice, Research, Technology and Innovation, that has been with MPI for a while now. And the idea is to just trial it for a short period to actually measure, to gain the feedback, and start with the concept, but then see kind of where it takes us. And after a few design rounds, we landed kind of on this device, which is a bigger version of this one, and more or less the display flipped on the head. So the actual monitor is down here. You see the glass panes. This is where the hologram plays. Over branding on there, and one of the amnesty bins. These amnesty bins are all around the airport, and you can actually dispose your items there, no harm done. And we check these bins. We actually see kind of what gets disposed, and is it of interest, or is it just something that shouldn't have been thrown away, but people try to be extra careful. So we're getting stats on that, but we had an opportunity to also put into the device kind of more sensors and capture actual quantitative data to enrich what we're doing anyhow with interviewing passengers and the qualitative data we have. So when you open up, you see it kind of a little bit like that, has a fair amount of space. Down here is the disposal bin. Here's actually kind of the seeing how the electronics where it's housed, and the whole unit can be moved around. It's pretty heavy, 250 kgs, because with the glass, the monitors and everything kind of around it, it's not really lightweight, and it's a bit more than 2 meters high. You see that in a moment in one of the images on location. So from the unit itself, we get depth information. There's a depth camera in there. It gives us some information. You can't identify people because we didn't want to have that at the airport, and would have been trickier to get permission for that. But you can actually track if someone's looking at the unit and how long they engage. And then we also built a weight sensor, put that in there, so we can actually track how heavy kind of items in the amnesty bin get when they're getting exposed. And obviously we know kind of which video is playing, things like that. Unfortunately, we couldn't hook it up to Wi-Fi or network or anything like that, so it had to be all pretty self-contained. One of the learnings later on is like not a good idea, so if you ever do this, push really, really hard for real-time feedback and real-time connections. So with the depth sensor, kind of looks a little bit like that. You get a pixelated image of the environment, and then through the SDK from the vendor, if you're familiar with Microsoft's Kinect, similar device, you can actually track individuals. This person is tracked, these people here in the background are not. It picks up a little bit, but not too much. And so we use that kind of as it comes out of the box to track how many people, up to 10, and how long can they engage with the unit. But we're not actually recording the raw data. So it's processed on the spot in the unit on the host PC. The other one, a bit of hobby electronics. We put weight sensors in there, and as any good project, if you're doing innovation, it needs Lego. So we put the sensors in there as well. Has a base, and then the weight bin sits on there. This became a problem later on, and I'm going to talk about that as well. Connect up with a little Arduino, and via USB, feeds into the host PC unit. Again, Wi-Fi and all this stuff would have been easier, but we had to work around it. After all that, and putting it together and trialing it, shipped it up to Auckland, and put it in an area between passport control and before you come to the luggage pickup. If you know Auckland Airport, you're going down the stairs, around the bend, and then there's a small corridor, and we were like right in that corridor, so you couldn't miss the unit. And then we waited, see kind of what we actually got back. This is a little bit kind of what you see from the video, and this is also what's playing on the little sibling that I was passing around. So this ran through in September, so pretty recent, and it's only the first batch of data. So what you're seeing and what I'm talking about is not the final report, it's not our insights. This is still pretty early days, but we've got 23 days from this first location, and by now the unit has been moved to a second location, and we got over 12,000 observations, which is great because that means somehow we picked up 12,000 people passing the unit. If you don't look at it, the camera won't pick it up. It's programmed that if you just walk past it, you don't make eye contact, it doesn't pick it up. So downloaded it, literally with a USB stick. Then what she discovered, we don't have weight data. And what actually happened, because we had a little bit, is that when the bin got pulled out, the base got pulled out with it, and despite kind of trying to be careful with the cabling and whatnot, the cable got ripped, and that was the end of that. And since we didn't have real-time feedback, we didn't pick it up, and it wasn't part of our process, because obviously the amnesty bin gets emptied and the unit gets checked and whatnot. That wasn't part of the protocol. So after a month, kind of like was like, bummer, we wish we had thought of that earlier. However, we got data in, and this is simply plotted every interaction in terms of the viewing distance, and it's a bit hard to see in terms of the scale, but you see 1 meter, 2 meter, 3 meter, up to 5 meters. The sensor phase out at 6 meters, so that's the maximum we get. And you see also how it's bunching around kind of like the 2 meter mark here. And This one was actually the trial we did in Wellington before we actually shipped the unit up to Auckland. This was in Pastoral House. Then this outlet here was actually transporting, assembling it, and this is when it actually went live, and until we got the first data harvest. You can see in the big block that there are gaps in there, and we want to actually know what's happening there. Because yes, we had outages, and we could actually determine kind of the bigger blocks in here, 4 ones, where it turned out, yes, unit power has been turned off, things like that, and we had to improve kind of how we protocol, how it recovers itself, and things like that. So that was the first thing we got from that. And then we're wondering, because we're measuring how long people stay around, and where the sensor picks up the most, you can't really see it, but here's this yellow band. This is kind of where we got the most interactions. And the bigger the block, the longer people hung around. And it was kind of like a lot of bigger blocks in the beginning, and we suspect kind of that's people who have shown, oh, look, kind of what we now have here at the airport, or yeah, I saw what we use it for advertising. And then it became more business as usual. And kind of there is a pretty even distribution. We did also look a little bit into, is there a difference in the weekday, things like that. And also we had to verify, or we will have to verify what our sensor is doing. Is it actually picking up people here at the same rate when they actually closer to the unit and things like that? Or are people there that stand back further, and what's happening there? So next things we're doing is overlay our passenger arrival numbers, so the volume of people coming through, because if we know that, then that's kind of our expectation. It's getting closer to Christmas, it'll be busier, so if you want to compare things, it'll be really useful. Cross-check with our items that we actually found in the bin, and is there a difference? Actually interview passengers, and mix in the qualitative information, and then modify the trial from kind of what we learned. Move the display unit around, so it's now in the second location, directly behind passport control, and also place a standard bin that we have in the old location, and then measure and compare that. And the message is pretty long, because you saw kind of, if you watched the whole thing, it's like 70 seconds. And that was the initial compromise of like, hey, we'll put all the stuff in there if you kind of put it up there. But is it really suitable if you're actually traveling? You want to get to your luggage, and oh yeah, you see it, but then you're willing to hang around 8 seconds, 10 seconds. So we're going to play with that, or simply static. Just rotating orange that's getting crossed out or something like that, and see, does it make a difference? It might be that, yes, we measure a difference, but it's actually the design of the unit. Looks quite different to the normal bins we have, and attracts more attention. Yeah, so more data to come in. We hope to have everything in by January, and then learn actually from the trial if it's worthwhile and what is the difference. That's me.